1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Bad check. 1, 2.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to this event, co-hosted by the Chinese Embassy in South Africa and the South African National Press Club. My name is Liu Jing, and I'm with the Embassy. Today, we're going to witness the launch of a new book called Xi Jinping and the Global South. On top of that, we'll have a signing ceremony of the establishment of a think tank. To tell us more about today's special occasion, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Albie. Albie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ginger, and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this auspicious occasion on the eve of the hosting of the G20 nations in South Africa, the very first one on the African soil, while in Brazil, nations of the world are meeting to hammer out a deal that will help to reduce potential temperature increases to below 2 degrees at least, to ensure the continued existence of the Earth as we know it, but also to protect the integrity of the ecosystem as well. And I say this because I know China is our partner in South Africa in terms of the climate negotiations under the basic countries, which brings together Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. And of course, within the BRICS nations as well, it plays a pivotal role. So this gathering this evening as we launch this book, but also we forge closer ties with China, but also at the same time refocus our minds on the partnership. My name is Albie Modise. I'm with the National Press Club, and I would like to, without much further ado, welcome each and every one of you here. The University of Johannesburg is well represented. I'm seeing a lot of academias from the UJ. We've rolled out the orange carpet, right? The ambassador, the People's Republic of China Embassy in South Africa, we appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we value and we treasure the friendship and the fellowship with yourselves as well. The National Press Club, the key partner in making sure this event happens, we truly appreciate your partnership. The previous years when we met here, there's a lady who used to work in this institution, and I learned last month of her passing. She's been a pivotal part of the Botanical Institute, and I thought, when I'm gone, I would like you to do what I'm going to do in her honor. I would like us to rise and just take a minute to observe and say, may her soul rest in peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Her name was Edith Margaret Adams. Often people who work at that level, we never think about them. We have an event, they come and make sure that food is available. We fight with them a lot. We have views about how effective or not effective they are, but they're still part of the humanity. And I think when people of that particular stature and integrity leave this world, it's important that we also remind ourselves that we share this oxygen with them, we share this republic with them. They also had dreams. And so I thought maybe we should do that. Without much further ado, let me now invite Antoinette from the National Press Club. Antoinette will lead us with welcome remarks. As she ascends the stage, Antoinette Slabert is the chairperson of the National Press Club, and she is going to lead us with remarks. Antoinette?
Thank you, Albie. Yes, it's my privilege to welcome all of you here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But let's just start off by saying a little bit about the National Press Club. Our core purpose as National Press Club is to network. We believe in relationships. The Press Club is where the journalists and the communication professionals come together, and we develop a better understanding for each other's roles. We get to know each other. You know, if there's something coming in a newspaper on a Sunday and you have to contact the editor urgently about whatever is going to be in the paper, or you stumble as a journalist upon a story and you absolutely need to speak to someone in a key position, it's at the Press Club where you build those contacts. So one of the friendships that we've built at the National Press Club is with the Chinese Embassy. And we really appreciate it. We've done several functions together. The embassy also supported us when we went through a very difficult time after COVID or during COVID when some of our leaders passed on. We will never forget that. Thank you so much. But I want to take it a little bit further. We are here at the southern tip of Africa, part of the global south. And we have a history of being exploited, people that you think are your friends or your protectors, and all they want is your minerals or whatever they see of value. They don't want to really be a friend. They want to just take, and you know, what the consequences are for us is not necessarily on their minds. And these days, and I'm going to be a little bit naughty, there are leaders who wake up in the morning and they have a different policy from what they had last night, and the world just has to adapt. But I think what we value is long-term friendships, friendships that also have our well-being on their mind. And that is why I'm very excited about this book tonight, because we are talking about the long-term vision of a leader, not for his own country, I'm sure he has that as well, but his vision for the global south. I think that is so important, and we are very excited about this book, Professor. So let me, with that little introduction, welcome Ambassador Wu Peng. Thank you so much for having us tonight. And then Professor Ifilwe Pashwana Mafuya, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of UJ. And the man who brought us all together here, Professor David Monyae from UJ as well. Mr. William Baloy, and I must say Mr. Baloy is firstly an executive committee member of the National Press Club, and only later, recently, he became the deputy government spokesperson. Welcome, Mr. Baloy. Ms. Delia Ndlovu is chairperson of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation. And there are so many other people from UJ, professors by the dozen, it seems. We are in awe of your academic achievements, and we are honored to be in your presence. I was saying just now, if we put all the knowledge in this room together, I think it will be quite a lot. Everybody, the guests of the Chinese Embassy, the press club members, and especially also the working media. Guys, we really appreciate that you are here. I'm not working tonight. I'm just here for the press club, but we appreciate what you do. And, of course, the message won't go out with us as the media. So with that, I hope you all enjoy the evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Antoinette, for your warm words. Now it is my great honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Wu Peng, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to the Republic of South Africa, to deliver the keynote address. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Professor Ifilwe Mafuya, Deputy Vice-Chancellor of University Joburg, Mr. William Baloy, spokesperson of South Africa government, Ms. Antoinette Slabert, chairperson of NPC, of course, Professor David Monyae. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I still remember when I arrived at this lovely country, South Africa, last year, The first, media event I attend is in the same place, also hosted by MPC. So I'm very appreciate and great pleasure to join you for the launch of the new book, Xi Jinping and Global South. On behalf of the Chinese Embassy in South Africa, I would like to offer warm congratulations on the publication of this book, especially to the writer of Professor David Monyae. And of course, express my sincere thanks to all friends from different sectors who have long cared about supported China-South Africa relations. In about 10 days, the G20 Summit will open in Johannesburg. This will be the first G20 Summit held on the Africa continent. Of course, in recent news, we all heard that maybe someone will be coming and someone will not. However, China formally supports South Africa's G20 presidency from the very beginning of this year. Including, we will send senior leaders of China to present in Johannesburg. And we also work with South Africa together. And among majority of the members of G20, for the equality, sustainability, and justice. This reform of the global governance is the main theme of this year's G20. Also, some people don't agree, but from the very beginning, that is the consensus reached by G20 members, and South Africa play a leading role. We must respect it. That is the rule of how to operate G20. And we look forward to this summit sending out a strong voice of Global South voice on global governance. Today, we are gathered with friends from South Africans, policy, academic, and media communities to discuss a major question. What is the Global South headed? And how can China and the Global South move forward together? Of course, I'm an ambassador of China, so that is why I say China and the Global South, all right? Please understand me, okay? This is a timely topic. It also has a far-reaching significance. Here, I would like to share my 3 thoughts drawing on Professor Monyae's new book. First, the rise of the Global South is the trend of our time and the direction of development. In his book, Professor Monyae points out that the Global South is not just a simple geographic term. It is a political identity and a collective consciousness formed after countries with shared history and colonialism and setbacks in development went through common struggle. It represents historical actors who strive for a fairer international order for themselves. Actually, we talk about order, but if I put a very normal phrase is treat us equally. This breaks away from labels such as underdeveloped countries or Eastern and West division, which carry a sense of hierarchy. Instead, it highlights dignity, rights, and equality. I fully agree with Professor's view. Today, more than 130 countries belong to the group of Global South. They accounted for about 80% of today's world population and over 40% of GDP. Look, our strength is not matched our share in the world population. On average, developing economies are growing faster than developed ones. We can say that the Global South is no longer the silent majority of the international system. It has already become an important force driving multipolarity, economic globalization, and the diversity of civilization. We all agree that global governance should represent true multilateralism. In the next few weeks, just as the Prof mentioned, South Africa, Brazil, and Qatar as hosts will convey the G20 Summit, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, and the World Summit for Social Development. China formally supported these Global South countries in hosting these major events, in making the voice of the South heard, in safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of the South, and in contributing Global South solution to global governance. Second, China and Africa are key members and a strong pillar of the Global South. In his book, Professor Monyae gives a systematic review of the history of mutual support between New China, the People's Republic of China, and the wider developing world. As the largest developing country, China is a nature member of the Global South and always gives high priority in its diplomacy to developing countries. From putting forward the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence more than 17 years ago, to long-term support for national liberation and independence in Africa, to today's joint efforts for economic development and national reunification in the new era. China has always stood firmly together with the Global South. Africa is the continent where developing countries are most concentrated. Together, China and Africa account for 1/3 of the world's population, 2.8 billion people. China-Africa cooperation is a fine example of equality and win-win cooperation among Global South countries. China has remained Africa's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years. In 2024, China-Africa trade volume reached nearly $300 billion, a record high. Chinese companies keep increasing their investment in Africa, promoting cooperation on industrial and supply chains and making real contribution to local tax revenue, jobs creation, and industrialization. Since the beginning of this year, some countries have launched trade wars and tariff wars, right? This has seriously harmed the legitimate interest of many countries and undermined the modernization process of the Global South. China has announced, our President Xi Jinping announced it in June this year, that China will apply zero tariff treatment on to 100% of taxable tariff lines for products from 53 African countries that have diplomatic relations with China. This is a major step for China to further open up and expand cooperation. We want to import more products from South Africa, not only just agriculture, mining, but also value-added manufactured products. Thank you. We are ready to work with Africa to make good use of this zero tariff arrangement to increase Africa exports to China to meet the diverse needs of Chinese consumers and to truly help African countries grow their economies and advance Africa modernization. Third, China-South Africa cooperation is leading the way in strengthening global South solidarity and cooperation. Professor Monyae has long focused on China studies. He has carried out systematic research and in-depth thinking on China's development path and on Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism, with Chinese characteristic for a new era. In the chapter, China, South Africa, and the Global South in the evolving global order in his book, he reviews the history of China-South Africa relation, and through this lens, observes the growth of Global South strengths. I believe this is a very meaningful perspective. In recent years, China and South Africa has worked together to promote the historical expansion of BRICS and to support the African Union in joining the G20. Just yesterday, Africa Union issued a very strong statement to support presidency of South Africa. China fully agree with Africa Union's statement as well. We have taken real actions to practice true multilateralism and to safeguard the common interests of developing countries and international fairness and justice. In a world undergoing profound changes unseen in a century, China-South Africa relations have gone beyond the bilateral scope. They are taking on greater strategic significance and global impact. China is ready to maintain close, high-level exchange with South Africa to deepen practical cooperation in economy, trade, people-to-people, and culture exchange, and to keep rising our relations to new level. Together, we can make greater contribution toward peace and development. I noticed recently, just in the past weekend, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa said, to call on reform of global governance. And he said that South Africa qualified, especially in the moral highland, to, as a banner, as a flag banner, to promote this reform, because your fight against apartheid history give you very proud history. I totally agree with your president. Ladies and gentlemen, another important part of today's event is a signing ceremony for the establishment of the Institute for the think tank for the study of Chinese modernization. Under the Charter of Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg, at the center. This is another result of our deepening cooperation between China and South Africa think tanks. It will also provide a new platform for us to explore a major question: how different civilizations can achieve modernization. Because we believe modernization does not only mean westernization. All countries could achieve modernization through their own way. As President Xi Jinping has stressed, Chinese modernization is modernization for a huge population, modernization for common prosperity, modernization that combines material and culture ethical progress, modernization where humanity and nature lives in harmony, and modernization that follows the path of peaceful development. When I talk about combines material and culture ethnic progress, we found in the world some advanced economy, although their GDP per capita is quite high. However, the drug is everywhere. We don't think that should be included in the modernization country. So I just give you example why we say modernization that combines material and culture ethnical progress. South Africa and Africa are advancing the African Union's Agenda 2063 with the goal of building an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. China does not export our model or offer a textbook for others. We just ready to strengthen exchange on governance experience with global South countries, including South Africa and African countries, and support each other in following development paths that suit our own national conditions. There is no one-size-fits-all model. We must confidence, trust in ourselves. As Professor Monyae puts it in his book, the modernization process of the Global South has the potential to elevate human society to a more civilized form. In closing, let me once again congratulate you on the successful launch of Xi Jinping and the Global South, and wish the think tank for the study of Chinese modernization every success in its work. I thank you very much.
Humble thanks, Ambassador. Truly appreciate your input and your insight as you unpacked the partnership between South Africa and China, but also bring it closer to home on the eve of the hosting of the G20. We continue to cherish the special bond and friendship with China, that ever-growing friendship between China and South Africa. And I know when we met in June this year in a different venue in Pretoria, we were discussing how young people should feature in the conversations between the two countries in the context of cultural exchange, primarily because the world is moving towards a digital age, and those who talk about digital disruption and how we can learn from yourselves as the key player in that particular space. And we truly appreciate that, and I think you qualify for another round of applause. Of course, one of the key players in South Africa in terms of information flow is the Government Communications and Information System. Some years back, I used to work for the agency when it was under the stewardship of Joel Netshitenze. And it continues to be of relevance in a country where information flow, if left to the markets, might not necessarily reach those that is intended for. And that government communications play a pivotal role in making sure that within the auspices of development communications, but also sharing with the general public the work of government, but also making South Africans aware of the services of government. I am not a spokesperson for government, but Mr. William Baloyi is a deputy spokesperson for government, and I'm sure he can wax lyrical much better than I can do. Mr. Baloyi.
Program Director, Program Directors, I think the first question might be, why am I carrying books to the pulpit? When there are a lot of professors, you run the risk of being questioned on the authority of what you're going to say. So I thought I should intimidate them to say, this is my authority. Your Excellency, Ambassador Wu Peng, and the members of the Chinese Embassy, Mr. Wang, you have been a friend to us for a long time, and the University of Johannesburg. I saw, as the chairperson of the press club was talking about the capacity inside here of knowledge, I saw Professor Mulunga, who has joined academia. But I want to warn his students. They should not take chances. He was once the spokesperson of a president. Secondly, he was also a chief of staff in the office of the president. So he knows his office in the union buildings. So let me warn his students that be careful on that one. Thank you very much, Professor Mulunga. Distinguished guests, members of the National Press Club, and also other members of the media, and Professor David Monyae, author of this important work. I'll come to him later. Ladies and gentlemen, let me play safe by saying I also observe all protocols in case I jump other people. I see my brother Floyd is here. Also, I will also recognize you, Floyd. Thank you very much. Good evening. I know last when I was in China, we used to say ni hao, until they say it's good, it's great. But learn also to say ni men hao. Then I think I've made it, which means hello everybody. It is an honor to join you at this gathering celebrating scholarship, dialogue, and partnership between China and South Africa. That's my summary because of having gone through the book by Prof. Prof, if I'm wrong, you'll tell me. Your book, Prof, Xi Jinping and the Global South, provides an important examination of how President Xi Jinping's ideas and actions affect and resonate with developing countries looking for justice and a role in the international governance. That is Prof, it's not me. Prof continues to then take us back to the Bandung Conference, where China articulated the principles of coexistence which have underpinned South-South cooperation. It's Prof who's taking us there. Prof continues to get into these principles, to say these principles include respect of sovereignty, which I think His Excellency touched on it. Prof continues to say, you also have to look at self-determination, avoid also interference in internal affairs, but also mutual non-aggression and cooperating on equal basis. That is what Prof is saying in his book. Prof continues to say, walk the talk. He said that's what the Chinese are doing. They're walking the talk in the service of Global South causes, and that has been consistent, as demonstrated since the support and assistance of the liberation struggles to the current relations. And South Africa is no different. Prof knows and moves exactly where South Africa has moved on through. He continued to say, to further demonstrate the commitment, in 2013, President Xi Jinping took office and made it his mission of placing the Global South at the top of his international agenda. That is Prof. I know that many of us, especially indigenous Africans, we are used to, the different doctors. You have a doctor who goes to Medunza, who goes to whatever, and when they do check you, they put those things here, stethoscopes. But we do have also some other doctors that use floor X-ray. You get me? Floor X-ray. Now, the doctors who use floor X-ray, they speak for those bones. They say, you see this bone, when it is like this, it's missed. So I know many people might say, I'm speaking on behalf of Prof. But that's what is contained in the book, which I think is a good story that we must read. Prof also continues to say that President Xi Jinping further stresses the importance of taking an active and constructive part in the process of making sure that there is world peace and stability. And this was said during the address at the BRICS Summit in 2013. We did host the BRICS Summit here in South Africa in 2023. President Xi Jinping was here, and we hosted it successfully, as is going to be the case with this event. South Africa has hosted many, many events of international stature. I think you'll remember in 1995, when we were still a young democracy, we hosted and won the World Rugby final. You remember? Thank you. As if we were not satisfied, come 1996, just the following year, we successfully hosted the African Nations Cup football ceremony. You remember? And which we won. We are in the winning part. We also have hosted many events, including the Netball World Cup. But in 2010, we made history by hosting the 2010, that's the showpiece in the whole world. We hosted the Soccer World Cup here in this country on behalf of this continent, and we hosted it successfully. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, Prof further stressed that President Xi Jinping stressed the importance of taking an active and constructive role in the process of making sure that there is world peace and stability. I'm repeating this because of the geopolitics that we are looking at currently. And as South Africa, we learned something which we are teaching the world, that gung-ho approach won't bring peace. We are here today because of our art of negotiation. Hence, we believe in the resolution of every conflict through negotiations. And that is our position. And that is what we are also putting in Israel. And we have, if you remember South Africa, we started the process of going to the ICJ. Only later do other countries then join us to see that we were all along correct. And I think that is what identifies us as a country. And I think we deserve an applaud for that. Prof, there is one thing that I want to thank you for in your book. I don't know whether I say you were highlighting or we're in a night vigil, you're introducing us to that, but there is something in the book that highlights the death, or should I say the obituary, of certain labels, sentences like underdeveloped countries. Remember that word? Underdeveloped countries, third world countries, and any other names that are used to denigrate countries, especially those in the southern hemisphere, including, of course, the African continent. So Prof in his book deals with that. Also, if we remember well, China was at the forefront of helping global South countries combat the pandemic through sharing expertise and donating medical equipment, thus saving millions of lives. Let me digress a little bit. I'm paid to speak. You know, it's just that the ambassador is here. I was going to tell you what is an ambassador. It's a very good man, just like a spokesperson. Very good. Who'll go to heaven when he dies. You only lie on behalf of your country. The first 3 volumes of Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, and the 4th one. Ambassador, I'm on the 4th one that I'm reading. Have played an important role in explaining the party's innovative theories, especially in inspiring people to work harder. That's what you find in the volumes. But the important one, Professor Maloka, was presenting China to the rest of the world. You find it in the governance thing. They have thereby opened a window for the international community to better understand China. In September 2024, last year, President Ramaphosa led a delegation of ministers and officials to the People's Republic of China and participated in the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit, because China is South Africa's largest global trading partner. Why am I mentioning that? And thank you very much, Ambassador. You were there, you guided us. We went there in the format of GNU, Government of National Unity. In that GNU, it was historical for some of the members of the cabinet to go to China. They were so shocked when they arrived in China. And they confessed that this is not the China that we have read about. This is not the China that we know. They were so shocked about the development. You can go and check their interviews. Then out of that, and I think Floyd will tell you if he wants to say initially before the GNU, the other partners were not looking east for investment. It was skewed. But after that visit, then there have been spin-offs out of that with South Africa. The engagement resulted in both countries agreeing to expand their economic and trade ties by improving the trade structure, increasing market access, and boosting South African value-add exports to China. GNU experienced that. You might have read who is a cabinet minister who went to China and signed the latest agreement on agriculture. I won't mention the name. It's on behalf of the South African government. So those are the spin-offs of Xi Jinping's The Governance of China, when they opened China to the world. This evening's event is more than just a literary occasion. It is a chance to consider how international relations and development cooperation have changed over time. I'm quite happy about the story being told, and Prof puts that, to say it's time that the South, we should start to tell our stories. We have not been telling our stories. If you don't believe, look at the current Russia-Ukraine issue. Try to look at it through the media reports. But then after that, go to podcasts. And then there are many, many scholars that have gone to tell the story, not through the media or the Western media, and compare what the prominent commentators are saying through their podcasts. I'm referring to, amongst others, I'm not marketing them, Alexander McQuarrie, he reports daily. Check what Douglas McGregor says. Check what Scott Ritter says. Check what Andrew Napolitano says. Check what Professor John Mearsheimer says. They give what one may say is a balanced view. And perhaps that is what I suspect, I'm not sure. That is what has prompted Prof. Monyae to conclude that the Global South must tell its own stories confidently. And this book does exactly that. Thank you very much, Prof. And the other thing, I was happy when the chairperson of the press club spoke about professors and professors. Those are heavy titles. In South Africa, there's been this phenomenon. I'm not sure if you have noticed it, where the media, they sort of not have enough people to give commentary on issues. The other day, believe it or not, this is a true story. I was watching one of the broadcasters. I'm a teacher by profession and training. Then there was this guy that I taught with him. He was not even teaching science subjects, but he was giving commentary as an energy expert. Then I called him, like a good South African, to congratulate him in his new elevation. And I asked him, when did you then cross over into the energy sector? And he said, no, I got a tender to supply valves, that had to do with electricity. Then he became an expert. So I am happy that the academics now are claiming that space. Because to be honest, we are poor without the knowledge of academics. It's not my platform to challenge them. But Prof, I think you have set the pace. Where we would want academia to claim the space of giving commentary that is based on research, that it's valuable to those who are watching. So thank you very much, Prof, because this is the story that we are telling. A special recognition and thanks to the Chinese Embassy for hosting this book launch and creating a platform for the Global South to tell its own stories. This demonstrates China's firm commitment to Global South solidarity as espoused by the words of President Xi Jinping in 2013 when he took office. However, it is more relevant as it happens during South Africa's presidency of the G20 and the hosting of the Leaders Summit in Gauteng province, which is going to happen on the 22nd and the 23rd of November. This is historic to the continent and the Global South. Why we don't have academics occupying the space? will suffer and will be poor. That's why you will believe that something bad is happening in South Africa. They say, what? Something bad are happening in South Africa. People are being killed. And you're asking yourself that, are we fine here, all of us? Because that's where we are. But our stories are being told from somewhere. That people are dying on a daily basis in South Africa because of genocide. I tried, Prof, to look at the meaning of genocide. Prof, I do have also friends that happen not to be of this skin. And I asked them, how are you surviving the genocide? Including the chairperson of the National Press Club, who seated next to you, bro. And she said, I'm still also looking for that genocide. So, which means that is a challenge to us to say, who should tell the story? And Prof, you have encouraged us by starting that there is also a platform that we should read. Then in closing, let me join also His Excellency the Ambassador in commending Professor Monyae for this insight book, but also for setting the pace that we can speak about ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baloyi, for sharing your insights and observations with us. I now invite Professor Refile Paswana Mafuya, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at the University of Johannesburg, to share her remarks. Professor, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Program Director. May I start by acknowledging the presence, and shall I say, a little bit of absence of the Ambassador, His Excellency, Mr. Wu Peng, who has just stepped out of the People's Republic of China to the Republic of South Africa. The Deputy Spokesperson from government who has just spoken here, Mr. William Baloyi, members of diplomatic corporations and government departments, in all protocol observed. And I need to recognize also the members of the National Press Club and the leadership of the great University of Johannesburg. We have members of the executive committee here, my colleague, Prof. Bongani Ngulunga, whom you have been told about. He holds second office at the great University of Johannesburg, and we are very happy about that. We also have members of the executive leadership group. There are executive deans from the great University of Johannesburg that are here. We have the president of the convocation. We've got many other professors and various people who hold senior management positions from the University of Johannesburg, because this is our event. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, all protocol observed, let me get into my speech. As the Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for research and internationalization, I'm very excited about this event because this is part of what I'm expected to achieve through the academics within my institution. Shall we give Professor Monyae a big round of applause for helping me meet my KPIs? My salary is indeed secured, my bonus is secured. So I'm very much grateful to be afforded an opportunity to give some remarks. What we are witnessing today, or this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is a hallmark of a close relationship that the great University of Johannesburg has with the Chinese embassy. This is not an overnight relationship. It is a relationship collaboration that has been built brick by brick over years. And I'll explain. Let me indicate also that the book by Professor Monyae at a national level represents a macrocosm of the increasingly important relationship between South Africa and China. China is a force to be reckoned with. The ambassador has explained the wonderful work that is being done by China, and we all can see and feel it, and we appreciate that. China has been South Africa's biggest trading partner in the last 15 years. President Xi Jinping has visited South Africa 4 times, the most of any African country. At a university level, we have the Confucius Institute, which is 10 years old, and the Center for Africa-China Studies that has been working alongside the Confucius Institute, where Professor Monyae serves as the director. Yes, thank you. These structures have been instrumental in building bridges linking the University of Johannesburg with China and Chinese institutions. In this vein, may I state some of the great milestones that our university celebrates this year. In 2025, UJ celebrates 20 years of academic excellence, research excellence, global footprint and partnership. And Professor Ngolunga will agree with me that we have the greatest celebration ever last week, the Platinum Gala Dinner, where we paused to look at where we have come and how, as an institution, we have driven transformation. I must indicate that China is very blessed to collaborate with an institution of our caliber, because we are also a force to be reckoned with. So it is the great China and the great University of Johannesburg coming together. We really look forward, Ambassador, and thank you, you are back. This message is for you. We look forward to more success in the future, to continued collaboration, to really shaking Africa and the Global South together as these two great, mighty institutions that always leave no stone unturned. The Confucius Institute at the University of Johannesburg is also celebrating its 10-year milestone. To mark this special achievement, on the 17th of November, we will have a great celebratory event where the ambassador undoubtedly will be there, and I hope many of you will be there. And the Center for Africa-China Studies, which was established in 2018, has rapidly become a hub of intellectual endeavors on Africa-China relations and global South studies, which is why this book. And I'm relating here the great work that we are doing at the great University of Johannesburg through these structures and through our professors, especially Professor Monyae, who is leading us in this regard. In addition to intellectual undertakings, the center has created inroads through which the University of Johannesburg has established close relations with China and its institution. In March this year, under the visionary leadership of the UJ Vice-Chancellor and Principal, Professor Letlhokwa George Mpedi, we went to China, and I was honored to be part of this. Prof. Monyae was honored to be part of this. We had executive deans and executive and senior directors. And in addition to the legendary hospitality that we were offered by Chinese colleagues, we also got an opportunity to visit several institutions, both academic and otherwise. If you haven't been to China, you haven't been to the world. I remember standing in front of a door that all of a sudden just opened wide in front of me, and then the next thing I saw was this huge screen, demonstrating innovations that I've never seen before. And as I was standing there, another door opened where that screen is. And then it became a door, and then there was another screen, and I was like, wow. And it went on and on like that. You actually don't have to be told about technology. You live technology, you feel technology, you realize that there's great thinking here, there's intentionality. And really, if South Africa wants to claim its place in the world, China, again, is a force to be reckoned with. To an African mind, China offers an inspiration of what we could become with foresight, diligent work, and an appetite to move from pronouncement to implementation, ideas to action. This zeal for putting words into practical outcomes also manifests itself at the level of our university. Recently, we also went to Zhejiang University, where we received a beautiful donation of a comprehensive collection of ancient Chinese cultural literature and artwork to the value more than 2 million rand, including return flights, accommodation, and everything, all courtesies. And we are going to have a special event, Ambassador, to celebrate this huge donation. We were so privileged to be among the 4 universities in the world to receive this donation, and the only African university to receive this donation. And I was also honored to travel to China in the company of Prof. Monyae, when we went to this, and he gave amazing talks and talked about the collaboration that we share here in South Africa and how we are driving this. Let me now, as I close, speak about the book just briefly, and I think I'm more than qualified than the preceding speakers. Because I'm an academic, and not only that, I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor of a university. So allow me to speak with authority about this book. This book will be a wonderful addition to ongoing debates about China's role in international affairs, more importantly, in its role as a spokesperson of historically colonized regions of the world. A brief scan of the book introduces one to a set of initiatives that China seeks to use to transform the international system into a just and equitable place, including the Global Civilization Initiative, the Global Governance Initiative. I have my notes about this here. I'm not going to read them. I'm just whetting your appetite to read the book. The book is timely, relevant, and responsive. In this book, Africa is called for the transformation of its global governance structures, such as, and working with UN organizations such as the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. It has been one of history's inordinate paradoxes that Africa, where most of global conflicts are concentrated, Africa does not have permanent representation at the United Nations Security Council. It is important that the book has highlighted these misnomers. In my opinion, this book is a call to action. It's a call out of our slumber to really do something to transform our society and our country. As global leaders have begun descending to South Africa for G20 Summit, they would be very well served by this book, while also working towards the much needed reforms, they'll find this book as a valuable resource to consider as we forge ahead. For this reason, Professor Monyae, I offer hearty congratulations. I'm an epidemiologist. I know that in trying to explain the book, I might have mixed words. You are a professor of international relations and you speak and write with that authority. But in all frankness, I wish to appreciate you for the great work that you have done representing the great University of Johannesburg as the #1 producer of research outputs in South Africa, leading all institutions. You name them, we are a leader. We are #1, the #1 university. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think from the input, you clearly have earned the right to, when the academic calendar closes, to take a well-deserved break, because you have delivered on your promise, at least with the help of Prof. Monyae. We truly appreciate it. And it's been quite, it gladdens my heart to see the type of work that has been done in putting together University of Johannesburg into a product of integrity that it is today. Because some of us watched the whole thing happen, how the old university, Afrikaanse Universiteit and the old Wits Technikon, and how they all came together as South Africa was celebrating its freedom, and we birthed a new institution, and we celebrate the illustrious work that's been done by previous leaders, Prof. van Rensburg, Prof. Marwala, and the work that's done by Prof. Mbedi with the assembly of professors that I'm with at this table here. And you've just added another intelligent mind to your assembly of professors in your School of Business, Prof. Alistair Mokoena, homeboy of mine and a good friend as well. You are A-rated, I can guarantee you that much. Mokoena is a sharp mind, Prof. I mean, it's an acquisition that really takes UJ to dizzy heights. And yeah, I'm convinced of that. I'm not an academic, but I'm friends with academics. Right? So, you know, sometimes when a phone doesn't have data, it can still work because you can hotspot it, or you can. So my friend is hotspotting me. Hotspot, yes. I've given you something to take back to campus tomorrow. Thank you so much. Let me now, without much further ado, as we progress with the evening, and thanks so much, Prof, for the insightful input. Let me also remind you that we're live streaming this particular event, and you may want to also know that we're doing that because we've got people who, owing to other commitments, cannot be part of this session, but they are connecting with us from outside of Pretoria and from all over the world. And let's keep the commentary going on our social media platforms. Make sure that we go in and, right? Exactly. So that's what young people teach me. So when I sound like I know these things better, it's because I keep in touch with that constituency. National Press Club is also on X. You can go and find at NP Club under the hashtag, hashtag Journalism Matters and hashtag Global South Solidarity. The next speaker is Ms. Delia Ndlovu, chairperson of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation. She's a distinguished leader in South Africa's financial and energy sectors, currently serving as the chairperson of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation, where she plays a pivotal role in advancing the country's export strategy and economic resilience. Delia has over 30 years of experience as an integral part of Deloitte in both Africa and globally, holding several leadership positions. Her commitment to governance is evident from her membership in the Institute of Directors in South Africa and the Institute of Corporate Directors in Canada, where she completed the Directors Education Program at the University of Toronto. I used to work with a minister who used to say, don't read my obituary in my presence. I don't want to do that. Madam, we're in your hands.
Thank you. Well, thank you, MC. how do I follow Prof. Refilwe? That was so exuberant and inspiring. So Your Excellency, the Ambassador of China, Professor Monyae, and the leadership of UJ, the National Press Club, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here. It is my utter delight to join you at this prestigious book launch hosted by the China Embassy. I'm grateful to be invited, and a hearty congratulations to Prof. Monyae. Prof, this is the book we've been waiting for, with powerful insights about how China contributes to the global South. You know, I'm not a China scholar, I'm just a China enthusiast. Prof was just recently at our strategy session at the ECIC, and he shared a high-level flavor of how Africa can learn from China. So I've been enthused and excited since that lecture by you, Prof. So thank you very much. I am a follower of yours. You've got a raving fan in me. So as chair of the ECIC, I'm deeply honored to address you at a pivotal moment in our country as the country prepares to host the G20 Summit. This marks not only a milestone for our nation, but a historic opportunity for the Global South to amplify its collective voice in order to influence the direction of global policy in our globe today. Indeed, this is more than a diplomatic milestone for South Africa. It is a chance for the Global South to reimagine its place in the world, not to be a passive participant in the global systems, but as active shapers of a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable global order in a multipolar world, as the ambassador has already said, marked by geopolitical turbulence and rapid technological developments and many moving parts and a lot of uncertainty. For South Africa, it is a moment to champion issues that speak to our shared future as the Global South, including debt relief, climate finance, digital inclusion, mobilization of capital for infrastructure, and the pursuit of fairer terms of development finance. Participation in the G20 process allows us to advance long overdue reforms of global institutions, and that has been alluded to by previous speakers, including trade rules, including voting rights, and the broader architecture of international cooperation. It opens the door for developing nations to learn from the global best practices, forge powerful partnerships, and participate fully in the networks that shape the modern economy. From a trade and market access perspective, as we've been talking at the ECIC about product innovation and market diversification, pivoting towards other markets away from the US, the G20 process offers an opportunity for engagement with the major economies represented at the G20, including China, for deeper integration into global value chains, enhanced export opportunities, and greater international visibility. In this context, as I said, I'm a China enthusiast, and I'm forever studying China and the lessons we can glean from what China has done in the world. I believe that China offers exciting and invigorating lessons for Africa. I will share a few of my personal observations about what these lessons can be. There are many. China has too many positive attributes, like Prof. Refilwe said, like the great UJ University. But I will limit it to just a few. For me, China amongst the G20 and the BRICS countries, it stands out as a leading innovator. As you've heard about how they are such a shining beacon from a technological development perspective. They are an industrial powerhouse, the manufacturing hub of the world, as far as I'm concerned. And across the continent, generally, I think there's a growing consensus that Africa must learn from China's experience by driving economic growth through industrialization, urbanization, as well as driving an export-led economy. China has shown the world what is possible when a nation aligns its industrial policy with long-term strategic interest. The other day, we heard that BYD will be in South Africa to establish about 300 charging stations in order to roll out their sales of EV vehicles. For me, that is a vivid example of foresight. Some may disagree. As a co-founder of an energy consortium, so as you heard, I was at Deloitte for 30 years, and last year, October, I took early retirement to reinvent myself to become an entrepreneur. And Dr. Baloyi, don't judge me. I have reinvented myself. I'm now in the energy sector. I've just recently had the privilege and the honor to work with a Chinese EPC. And I've been blown away by the expertise, the deep technical expertise that they bring to the table. Not only do they bring expertise, they also bring capital, which is good. And there is a skills transference that's going to happen. As you know, one of the biggest opportunities in the energy sector at the moment is the ESCOM National Transmission Company, the NTC, which is investing billions into modernizing our grid to make it to extend it by 14,500 kilometers, adding 56 gigawatts of energy. So there's the opportunity there. And I'm seeing more and more Chinese EPCs helping us. And the reason, I think that makes sense, because the backlog, the infrastructure backlog in the energy sector cannot be tackled by South African EPCs alone. So I think it makes sense for us to partner with our Chinese counterparts in this industry. And when I was at Deloitte, we had an Africa-China desk. And in this Africa-China desk, we worked with our colleagues based in China to help many, many Chinese companies involved in projects in Southern Africa, East Africa, and West Africa. And it was quite something to behold, the level of infrastructure development in our continent, not only in Southern Africa, across Africa. So I think equally remarkable is how China has positioned itself to control close to 90% of the processing of the world's rare earth minerals. I may have my percentage wrong, Ambassador, but it is quite remarkable and how you've used that as leverage. This did not happen by chance. It is the result of deliberate, consistent, and visionary planning and understanding of how value is created and where power truly resides in the global economy. So it's been interesting to watch, as deals are being cut out with nations and to see China's positioning and the leveraging of your strengths. And it's a powerful lesson for Africa. And for South Africa in particular, we sit on top of a vast minerals, and yet much of it leaves our shores in raw form. We all know this as South Africans. Imagine the transformative potential if we too focused on beneficiation, value addition, ensuring that the real economic value of our natural resources is realized here at home, creating jobs, building industries, and strengthening our competitive position in global supply chains. I say it is time for Africa to take lessons from China, but it should not be through imitation. It should be through adaptation in a way that speaks to our strengths, our resources, and our developmental aspirations. The China-Africa story, when written with integrity, is not one of dependency, but one of shared opportunity, mutual learning, and sustainable progress. In my capacity of the ECIC, I'm mindful of the recent observations by the World Bank, which highlights that unlike China, South Africa continues to underperform in exporting goods and services abroad. Among the key reasons cited are the tariff and logistical constraints that continue to weigh on our exporters, as well as rising transport and logistics costs that have eroded our competitiveness in global markets. These challenges underscore a critical truth. Logistics is the bloodstream of trade. When ports, railways, and roads falter, the entire economy feels the strain. Given these realities, South Africa stands to gain immensely by leveraging strategic collaborations with China, a nation that has built the world's most efficient ports and boasts the largest and most advanced high-speed railway network linking the majority of its major cities. Such collaboration could help us modernize our logistics and infrastructure system, unlock trade corridors, leveraging the AFC, FTA, and strengthening South Africa's position as a gateway to Africa, particularly within the SADC region. In this regard, South Africa can learn from how China has played a leading role in Asia's modernization and promoting intra-Asia trade and establishing supply chains in the region. By partnering in this way, we can enhance efficiency, reduce costs of doing business, and enable exporters to compete more effectively on the global stage. As the ECIC team, we watch with great fascination how the Sinosure and the China Exim Bank have powered China's global initiatives and projects, as well as the Belt and Roads Initiative. I see the ambassador smiling. These institutions are not financiers, but they are enablers of strategic growth. At ECIC, we are eager to learn from Sinosure and the China Exim Bank's model as SA explores the possibility of establishing its own Exim Bank. We see immense potential for collaboration with our counterparts from China. Together, I believe we can build a financial architecture that includes risk sharing to support African exports, industrialization, and global integration. As I conclude, let me say that my wish is that today will be more than a celebration of a book launch. And as Prof. Refilwe said, it must be a call to action for South Africa and China to share a vision of prosperity, resilience, global leadership. Let us deepen our ties, learn from each other, and build a future worthy of our people's aspirations. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Nglovu, for your very insightful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we now turn to the author of today's featured book, Professor David Monyae. Professor Monyae is Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg and Director of the Center for Africa-China Studies. Please join me in welcoming Professor Monyae to share his reflections with us.
Thank you. I just ran out of words. The book has already been explained. His Excellency Ambassador of the People's Republic of China in South Africa, Mr. Wu Peng, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Professor Refilwe Botswana Mafuya, my boss, the Senior Executive Director of the University of Johannesburg, in charge of student and everything that moves at UJ, and communication and media, almost everything. Mongani Guluwe, he's also a great friend. The Executive Dean, I don't know if he's arrived. Imloy, yes, College of Business and Economics. The Chairperson of Export Credit, Madam Njovu. My dear wife that I'm looking at, Amanda. Esteemed colleagues, friends from the University of Johannesburg. My entire team is quite here. We have Lebu Zizi, Dr. Matambo, Dr. Mboya, Dr. Nkala, and thank you. This book wouldn't have come. And the most important person, the publisher, Ridwan, very good friend, a hard worker. I see him seated. Friends, colleagues, my own siblings, Greg and Ginny, and my nephew. Members of the media and civil society. Friends, I stand on the existing protocol. Good evening. I'm honored to welcome you to the launch of this important book, Xi Jinping and the Global South. First, I would like to convey my profound gratitude to my family, as I've already done, who inspired and encouraged me during the development of this book. The book is dedicated to the memory of my late brother, Mashudi Eddie Edward Monyae. I'm equally grateful to my colleagues that I've already mentioned, as well as the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, who have facilitated some of the interviews that I have done, and a good friend of the university. And this book invites us all to rethink international relations. And before I even go any further, I would also want to acknowledge he just accepted to come last minute, since members of the media are here, Floyd Swamp. And I'm proud to say he's my former student. From the critical perspective of the Global South, a lens that reveals both the challenges and opportunity shaping our shared world. Understanding international relations is far more than an academic pursuit. It is essential for grappling with the complex dynamics from conflict and economic disparities to environmental crises, rapid technological transformations that defined our era. For too long, the global order has been dominated by a limited set of powerful actors, marginalizing the voices and interests of the Global South countries. These structural imbalances has perpetuated inequality and artificially limited opportunities for meaningful participation in the global governance. However, this book reflects the ongoing transformation where Global South nations are increasingly raising their voices, crafting new narratives, asserting agents, and contributing innovation solutions to global challenges. The question, ladies and gentlemen, becomes, why focus on China? Why examine Xi Jinping? And lastly, why place the Global South at the center of analysis? These inquiries are rooted in my personal journey, from childhood encounters with the conflicting narratives about China, such as the story of the Tazara and China's role during the Second World War, to the academic exploitation during the South Africa's transformative years. Exploration, not my first exposure to Asia was during my honors thesis. I can still remember that, way back in the early 90s. I'm not that old. In my honors, I analyzed the Malaysia's affirmative action, and I compared to South Africa very early on. And that moved me to my master's. My master's looked at, and I think it's, if I can say in a very humble way, it's one of my greatest work. It looked at the non-alignment movement, a work that I'm still proud of for my master's. The Bandung conference, I worked on that, and as well as one particular interesting history of the ANC, that in the late, I must be very careful with dates here, because I have Professor Edimaloka, one of the best historians, one of the leaders of the ANC visited Moscow after the revolution, mid-20s, late 20s. When he came back, he said, I have seen the New Jerusalem. And I think you all know who that is. And it was quite fascinating, because liberation movements across the African continent relied on the then Soviet Union and China. He had seen Jerusalem, but it was much more in the ideological and the political. In my own more than 40 visits to China, in one particular visit, I also made the similar statement. When I came, I said, I've seen the New Jerusalem. And my Jerusalem, meaning China, had to do more with technology, that I had seen factories from planning, execution, making of the products, transportation, everything is done by robots. As I was walking in those floors and thinking deep, my mind had trade unions, had all the thinking, but my beloved continent. That to what extent can we, as members of the academia, think through what's happening in China and so many other places, that we really need to think quite hard to go beyond the slogans when we do partnership, to really work hard. China's remarkable rise from enduring poverty to becoming an economic and technological powerhouse offers powerful lessons for Africa and the global South to ponder about. Equally important is China's sustained advocacy for governance, anti-imperialism, equality, and shared prosperity, which resonates deeply with the global South aspirations. Practical examples bring these themes to life: investments in infrastructure, capacity building, and educational scholarship. And on that note, educational, we have in this house Dr. Sibusiso Bakana. I don't know where he's seated. There he is. We're quite proud of him. And at the University of Johannesburg, working with the Chinese, he managed to get scholarship to China. And today he's back with a degree in artificial intelligence. And so when we say China partnership, we're not just theorizing, we're really working hard ensuring, and as teachers, seeing our students doing well and coming back, that the liberation is no longer in slogans. It's going to be taken into labs and ensure that we produce some of the best and compete with our own partners, including the Chinese themselves. And the solidarity China has shown since the historical liberation struggle is manifested through educational exchanges, which I have also explained, trade expansion, the ambassador and everyone else has spoken to, the Belt and Road Initiative, the diplomatic cooperation framework, such as the Forum on China. Yet, this book is not an uncritical appraisal of China. Rather, it is a rigorous account into Xi Jinping's vision for the Global South. For me, gaining a profound understanding of this vision alongside China's foreign policy and its modernization, rooted in rich civilization, is indispensable for engaging with China in an informed and an unbiased manner. Such understanding enriches South-South cooperation as well as the civilizational and intellectual exchanges that are shaping the future of global governance. While this book illuminates China and Xi Jinping's vision, it is the first among many other relevant global South subjects and actors who equally need to be explored and analyzed to sustain South-South cooperation. We're working on Global South, and we're looking at Global South leaders. We're looking at India, Russia, including our own country, Nigeria, Egypt. We also are mindful of the global changes that are taking place and ensuring that we tell our story from different angles. We all have a duty to play, not just a matter of politicians. As teachers, as students, I think we need to work extremely hard. Distinct from Africa's traditional focus on representation, a question that we always ask, when we talk about transformation of the international system, I think we need to go far beyond the question of representation, just to be in the room, photo shoots. I think we need to think deeper, to go beyond being there. I think the lessons that I've personally learned from China, when they talk about their own transformation, their involvement at a global level, they're looking at transformation from much more comprehensive, that even the language of United Nations, they want to put their own words. And therefore, I think when we talk about the reforms of UN, we need to think about our own civilization. And with an understanding that there's no civilization that is more important or more superior than others. Our civilization is important, has contributed immensely to the world. And therefore, when we demand for a space, we also need to be taken quite seriously. Currently, Africa faces daunting challenge in the erosion of global leadership and the weakening of multilateral partnership. Threats that reinforce isolation and domination. I can't say more on this with the news that we receive from the leaders in the developed world, that there are some that think that with an imperialistic mindset that we don't deserve to be in G20, that they see us nothing other than their own backyard, and therefore we should not have an independent foreign policy. We should not say anything. So therefore, we need to understand what is happening, all the statements that are made. Where do they come from? And therefore, we need to, as was the case during the liberation struggle, we need to rely on our strategic partners, China and others in Latin America and everywhere else, to be with us far beyond the narratives of the day. The book comprehensively covers topics including the history of China's role in the Global South, Xi Jinping thought and its implications, the Global Civilization Initiative, China's role in peace and security, efforts to build high-quality China-Africa relation, global governance reforms, the Dar es Salaam Consensus, and Chinese development initiatives. It also explores China educational exchange in Africa as bridges for mutual learning and examines China-Africa partnership in value addition, critical for pushing Africa's higher on the global value chain. As we move forward, it is paramount to recognize that building a just world is achievable only through inclusive dialogue and partnership, where all voices are respected equally. This book challenges us to embrace such a vision and to commit to collective efforts of Global South countries in shaping a better shared future. In closing, as I look at my wife, I invite you to engage with this book openly and critically. Its insights are crucial for understanding and shaping the future of the Global South. As the African proverb reminds us, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I warmly welcome your thoughtful critique, confident that such constructive dialogue will enrich our collective journey. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Monyae. Ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed to the second part of today's event, the signing of the letter of intent to establish the Research on Chinese Modernization think tank. This is yet another milestone in deepening academic collaboration and mutual understanding between our two countries. It is now my great honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Wu Peng and Professor Refile Paswana Mafuya to come on stage and sign the letter of intent.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start with, I'm going to allow them to do the signing first, and then we'll do 2 questions from the floor. Nothing more than 2. I'm mindful of time. So we will now await the documents for the University of Johannesburg and the People's Republic of China. We're almost at the tail end of the program. I know you may not have the program in front of you, but I can assure you, when you travel, you want to know how many kilometers to Cape Town. So you're traveling, but you don't even know where you are, and you don't know how far you are to the destination. What I can guarantee you, though, is that we're just in the neck of the woods of where we're headed. So we should be there in a flash. As we celebrate and as we also the partnership between the University of Johannesburg and the People's Republic of China. Congratulations, Prof. and Ambassador. Thank you so much for the partnership. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm just going to take 2 questions from the floor.
All right.
Only 2 questions. One will come from this side, the other will come from the other side. But if there's no question from any side, I'm not going to compel anyone to ask a question. You don't have to ask a question. It can be a comment, it can be, a remark, but short to the point, mindful of time. Any comment from the floor? I'm starting this side. Going. Gone.
Maybe we
gone.
already far behind our program schedule. People are hungry, right?
Yes.
So we can eat something first, all right?
Yes.
If you have some question to me, I would like to answer one way, during our dinners, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's program. Thank you once again for joining us and for making this event a meaningful success. And now I hand over to Alvi for the final words.
Jinja, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador, a big thank you for honoring and for also hosting us to the University of Johannesburg. We are proud of your success. Your success is our success. Continue to make the mark that you've been recording over the past few years. To the National Press Club, to the executive committee members, they are all here in numbers and different angles. They are all here. Thank you so much for honoring the invite. To the University of Johannesburg community, thank you. The Chinese Embassy, thank you so much. To you, members of the media, a hearty thank you, and have a blessed and lovely evening. We have some eateries waiting for us all, so can we please enjoy the evening, and thank you for honoring the invite. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be this particular way of accessing food. We all are going to get our share, but let's start with the main table here. Can we remain seated so that the main table starts? And then I will make this the second table, and this will be the third, because they're smiling nicely towards me. Yeah, let's start with table number 1, and in that particular fashion, we'll then get other tables to join in.